the meeting to order. Mr. Patterson, would you read the invocation, please?
Let us pray. Lord, we just thank you for allowing us to be here tonight. Help us to always remember that this is about your business, Lord, because you give us every good thing, Lord, every breath that we take. Help us to have wisdom, Lord. Thank you for our county, for its leaders. Lord, it's not hard to look around and see all the unrest, and especially the big cities, Lord. Thank you for just blessing us and protecting us and watching over us, Lord. Help us to show your love and not hate. And again, be with us as commissioners. Give us our wisdom that you would have us to do these things. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, before we get started, we need to add a last-minute item. We'll add this as item number 12, and it's the annual contract with the UGA Extension Office next door. So we'll add that as item number 12. Appreciate everybody coming here. We're still trying to deal with this social distancing thing. I'm just an old country boy. I thought you just stayed away from people if you thought they were sick, but I guess social distancing is the proper term these days, and we'll adhere to that as best we can. Commissioners, item number 1, unfinished business, approval of the minutes from our June 1st teleconference meeting. Please let me know if you're ready to move forward with that.
I read the minutes and have no objections.
Okay.
I have no objections as well.
I'll ask for a motion. We approve the June 1st minutes.
Make a motion.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor? Minutes are approved. Public commentary. If you would like to speak, please raise your hand, be recognized, come forward, tell us who you are and where you live in Fannin County. Anyone? Anyone? Okay, we'll move on from public commentary on to new business. And item number 2, our Clerk of Superior Court, Ms. Chastain. Please come forward and tell us what you have, Dana.
May I give that?
Sure, we may have it already.
First of all, I want to thank y'all for the opportunity to voice and explain my request. I have 2 requests. These will be in my office. I'll start with a smaller request. It's in my office specifically when it rains. This has happened probably for about 3 years, maybe a little over 3 years. Every time it rains, it runs down from the 3rd floor and it comes down into my window, and it was growing black mold, and of course that's been cut out, and it ran out up into under the carpet, and like I said, that's been cut out. The wall has been repaired. It was over one portion of this wall over into about half of another wall. So that's the smaller request, and I have an estimate from Aaron Allen and Jason Larkin. These men have done quite a few things in and around our courthouse, and I feel they would be knowledgeable and reasonable. It's an estimate of $600. That's the first request. The second request, we take pride in our customer service, and I have a great staff. And during this COVID, we have really stepped it up, but we've had to close the office to the general public. And at first, we went several weeks with just waiting by phone. We made provisions to put a phone on the outside of the doors and utilize the foyer and have a couple of search terminals out there. And then, as we've inched into the present time, on Fridays, I allow attorneys, title people, those needing to do searches into our record room to come in on Fridays from 1 to 5, and then most Saturdays from 10 to 2. And that way, my thinking in that is to have a couple of days where my staff would not be there, to where it would just be me, and I could keep everybody safe in case something happened, and then do just a really mass cleaning before they came back in on Monday morning. And in heading into the winter months, probably October, November, and if the COVID continues or comes back, I would like to be able to have it open for the public, but for the protection of my staff. And if you'll look, Aaron and Jason have drawn, it's a wall, it's in the shape of an L, and lots of the courthouses in and around our state are protected, and our staff is protected. And the way we have always done business is it's been an open concept. Anyone is always welcome, and that type of thing. But like I said, for the protection of me and my staff, and to carry on business in the county, banks depend on our office. Most businesses in the county were like a hub to do business, and if we were to shut down, banks couldn't lend money, they couldn't get their filings timely, and it would just be detrimental. So I feel that it's essential for the ongoing business of Fannin County if we could build this wall for the protection of citizens and my staff. Do y'all have any questions?
And this would be under the capital outlay budget that you have?
Yes.
Okay.
Normally, I guess I would ask if the county could pay for that, but if they can't, I do have a capital outlay within my budget that I think is sufficient to cover it.
Yeah, it would need to go under that, and it certainly would cover 99% of that, so it would need to come out of that line item there. Commissioner Patterson, you have any questions, thoughts on this?
I may have missed it, but just for the record, it's 35,377?
Yes.
Okay.
I think the window part, we could cover that, that's normal maintenance. So, that would not, we'll cover that in other directions instead of your budget. We would just look at this. And I think we are trying to keep up with expenses through the county, even though it goes into different department budgets for this COVID, because we don't know. The state's received a lot of money from the federal government, but almost all of it's going to the 4 big counties around Atlanta. And I know there's an effort going on right now with the ACCG to get them to turn loose of the rest of that and divide it out equally among the other counties, but we haven't heard anything on that yet.
I've also been tracking that, and of course, DeKalb County was the hardest hit.
Right.
They got the most money, and they had one death. Her office was similar to mine, where it was like an open concept, same in Doherty County. Floyd County has had to close 3 times, and it's because she never closed to the public. But I want the public to know that we still will, they have access to anything that's in my office. All they have to do is request it, and like I said, we have a great staff. We'll be able to get them anything that they need.
So y'all are doing everything you did before the pandemic right now, correct?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
And so essentially what this wall is doing, it's encapsulating all the people who work for you while other, whether it be title searchers or whatever, are doing their thing in the deed area, correct?
It would separate the two, and we would be able, they would still be able to see us and call upon us if they need any assistance. But to do a 50-year search, they have to have access to the deed records, real estate, civil, those types of things. Our computers go back 30 years. We're in the process of going back a little farther, but we're not there yet.
Well, I think, COVID aside, I think this would be able to kind of separate. Anyway, I know times I've been in your office, all these open plants, most counties are that way. I've never understood that. But, I think it's a good idea myself. It looks like no matter what those people are doing, it won't be affecting all the workers in your office, who's coming, who's going, or whatever. I think it'd be a good idea.
Okay. I don't have any further questions. Anything else from you, Commissioner Patterson?
No, sir.
Mr. Johnson, anything else? Okay. I'll make the motion that we approve this work. The estimate $35,377 to come out of the county, the clerk of court budget under capital outlay equipment. And the other amount, the $600, we'll handle that out of the maintenance budget. So I'll make a motion that we approve this. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor? You have your wall.
Thank you.
Would you contact these gentlemen, or do you want us to contact them?
I will, I can contact them.
You have your phone numbers on?
I do.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you. You're welcome to stick around, but you don't have to. It's not impolite if you
May
have
we
other
be
things to do.
excused? May we be excused?
All right, thank you, Dana.
Y'all have a good evening.
Okay, we have a number of variance requests this evening. And typically what we do is when I announce the variance, if there's anyone here that opposes the variance, for them to raise your hand and come up and express your concern. The first one is for Thomas and Katrina Jordan. And this was to build a carport 17 feet from the edge of Claude Neal Lane. And I have been out there and looked at it. The only problem I had was that, is there anyone here, the Jordans? Anyone here? Okay. The problem I had with this one is when I was out there last week, there was no variance poster anywhere. I couldn't
Yeah, I
find
didn't
it.
see one either.
And I just, for me, I don't purport to vote on any variances that don't have that poster. They're there for a reason. That's to let the neighbors know what's going on, and if they have any objections to come forward. Commissioner Johnson, you got any thoughts on this, sir?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to move forward without them
Okay.
posting it, and letting everybody know what they're doing.
Right.
Everyone else goes through the same process, so.
Okay. Well, I would feel like we should table this until the next meeting in July, and the land development could get in touch with these folks and let them know what the issue is, and then perhaps we could go back out again and see that they've got that. You okay with that, Commissioner Patterson?
Yes, I have no
Okay.
objection to that. That's consistent with what we've done in the past.
Ms. Dawson, we need to vote to table, or do we just do that?
No, you need to vote to table.
Okay, all right. I'll make a motion that we table this variance from Thomas and Katrina Jordan until the next county meeting in July. I'll make that motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor? Okay, next variance request is from Blue Ridge Lake Investments LLC, and this is to build a structure 20 feet from the edge of Indian Trail and 25 feet from the center line of Indian Trail. Is there anyone here that objects to this variance from Blue Ridge Lake Investments?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Please state your name and come forward.
My name is Herb Wyndham.
Okay.
We're the developers and owners of Nicalaco. It's kind of misleading the way they say from the edge of Indian Trail Road. The road's only a 10-foot wide road. It's a 35-foot right-of-way. So if you go in from there, you're not getting to the property line where the variance line should actually start. So this is going to put it within about 10 feet of the property line on the road. There's not been a single, there's about close to 100 houses in Nicalaco now, not a single one of them's ever had to have a variance for any reason. But the first question I would like to ask, and maybe y'all can answer, or Ms. Dawes can, this is a private road, it's not a county road. Why does the county have to approve a variance on a private road?
Because the public accesses the road, and that does, whether it's a private road or a county road, that falls under the county's Board of Commissioners' purview to do that.
Okay, so no matter if it's not an approved county road.
That's right.
And you don't maintain it, it's not that you.
That is
okay,
correct.
I understand that. The Shady Falls Road, which is the main road through there, is a county road. Has been since '85. We have some protective covenants that fall that were recorded back in 1985 also, that says 40 foot from the center line of the road, all houses have to be built, and all of them meet that requirement now, except for the one they're asking for now. And I think, isn't one of the things on his request that 5 foot from the sideline? Is that on there?
I don't see that.
No, I don't see it.
You
20
just-
feet, 20, the edge of the Indian Trail.
Yeah, that's from the road.
26 from the center line.
Okay, yeah, and like I say, that's just very misleading, because it's not, if you go from the center line of the road, it's only a 10-foot wide road with a 35-foot right of way. So if you go to the property line, if you use it from the center line of the road, that puts your house within about 10 feet of the property line. And that's what, I just reject it because the lots were sold, they are very small lots, and it's a lakefront lot. And I understand them wanting to build on it, but it was sold knowing that it is a small lot. As a matter of fact, they didn't put a septic tank on the lot, they got a pump across, and they own another lot across there. And but I would like to say that we are opposed to it, because it would be the only house in there, plus it would be very close to the property line on the street side.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am?
Good evening. My name is Teresa Joel, and I own the home adjacent to 19 Indian Trail. And I oppose this variance request because it would infringe on my property line if the variance was granted. And I think it goes against all the intentions of Nicalaco when it was conceived back in 1985 to be green space and nature, and this would create such a large structure closer to the street and closer to my side property line that I oppose that.
And where is yours?
It's next door. It's at the very
Is it
end.
right in at the cul-de-sac?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes.
And it fringes on yours because,
Well, they are asking for, an additional 10 feet on the side and also a setback from the street, which I think would, be, what's the word I'm looking for? I think it would I think it would devalue my property because it's so close to the street. It is not contained within what was meant to be of that property. And my concern is that with such a small footprint on such a small lake lot, they would build something that was 2 or 3 stories tall. And I have a 1-story log cabin at the very end of the street, and I'd be just sort of pushed back in there and not have the nature environment that I believe was intended for that area and why I purchased the cabin. So that's my objection.
Okay. Thank you.
thank you.
What's your thoughts on this, Mr. Patterson?
Well, I went out and looked at it. It is, on our sheet says it's gonna be a very small lot. And, 1,700 contour takes most of the lot. I didn't look at the overall, subdivision, as far as, they said that it would be contrary to the other houses, and how far, they did, but, we're dealing with this individual, and I just, I'd like to hear what you guys think about it.
Mr. Johnson, what say you, sir?
Well, I don't want to start a trend. This subdivision, I know it well, it's been there since 1985, and once you start a trend of letting houses get closer to the road, it'll be next month, next year, the next person that buys a lot, or the next person who already owns a lot and decides to build on it. And I just think you start trends when you do this, and I don't think if everyone else in the subdivision has went the extra lengths to build within the set county guidelines now, I don't think we need to start changing it for a one-case basis. That's my opinion, so. But going into the subdivision, it has a conducive feeling when you go throughout the whole subdivision, and everything seems, there are no houses that close to the road. I can see where if you start one, it can, from here on out, everyone would want to build that close, or someone would want a little closer. When we've seen it in other subdivisions, once you set the precedent, it's hard to tell anyone no.
Do we know if they're actually building a home there? They said structure. Are they talking about a house?
Yes, sir, it's a home.
We haven't seen,
One thing we didn't address was that there's a creek on the property also. And there's a 50-foot building line from the creek, and that even closes the lot down another 50 feet instead of 45 feet. It would be 5 feet if the building set that way. It's just a small lot.
is there anything that the homeowners could do to negotiate with it? Now, we don't get into homeowner laws, variances, not variances, but your ordinances that you have there. That's not something we get into. But is there anything that the homeowner could do to negotiate something with you that's reasonable, or are y'all just dead set against anything going there? I'm just asking a question, just
Well,
try for clarity.
I think they're trying to build too big a house for the lot. I think if they cut it down to where it was the right house for the right lot, it would probably do that. Nobody have an objection at all, but
It's just, that's awfully close, and you still got 6 lots on that road, even though it's a dead-end cul-de-sac road, there's still 6 other lots that have to be dealt with there. And Mr. Tripp, I'm sure you all know, lived there, and he had 3 of the lots, and then now he's selling and breaking it up. The lady that just spoke bought one of the houses, and then they wanted to buy this other vacant lot, and then 3 lots across the street.
And for me, I mean, the reason I'm there is because of all the natural space, not because people are building these huge houses on postage-sized lots. So I would rather they abide by the guidelines already set.
Commissioners, I guess we've got a couple of routes here. We can reject this, or, as we've done many times, when there's a dispute between neighbors, and we've done this in many situations before, where we get our land development, our land inspection out to look at it much closer and kind of mediate if it's possible between the parties, and then go from there. Most of the time we've been able to come to some reasonable conclusion, because the last thing we want to do is to push something or allow something that sets neighbor against neighbor. I mean, that's really what we like to do that. So I don't know what you guys think. Yes, ma'am?
If I can just add something, I mean, if they were asking for like 5 feet, I would be, as opposed to the 25 to 29 feet, they're asking for the front street variance, I'd be more amenable to that. It's just they're asking for such a big variance from the street. It's just not, it just doesn't make sense to me that it's ever gonna work.
Okay.
Have you talked to this Kelly Pearson? Have you talked to her? She's supposed to be the
No,
customer?
We have not. I just saw the sign yesterday for the first time. I'm sorry, I'm not real prepared, because I just saw the sign, the parent sign up there. And
Okay.
she lives on one side, and we actually live on the other side, the other house on both sides. So those 2 residents are already established.
She's got a house already in the
Yeah,
subdivision?
right. No, I don't think she does. It just, we live on one side of the vacant lot that they're talking about,
Uh-huh.
and the lady back here lives on the other side
Okay,
of that. Yes, sir.
on the lake side,
Right.
right.
Okay.
If you don't mind me asking her, I mean, I'm sure in the past, it's been a challenge, as many of the houses you've built in there to stay in the guidelines. But what you're telling me is y'all somehow managed to do it on all the rest of the lots without.
We've had to change plans so many times, it's unreal to make it fit within the guidelines of the subdivision. And we just opened up 2 new phases, and I'm like what you just said, I hate to set a precedence now, because and it is a lakefront lot, and lakefront lots are very expensive, as you know, on Blue Ridge Lake. But it's still, they knew it when they bought it, and I just don't feel like it should be really, this close to the line is too close to the line.
Would y'all be amiable to having our home inspector come out and talk to you and talk with the other parties to see if there's any room to come to a reasonable conclusion? Are you willing to do that?
I mean, I personally would, but I don't think there's any guarantee by the new owners. They can't guarantee what they're gonna build there yet. They just have that 1,700 square feet. They don't have any plans drawn up for a house yet, but it could be 2 or 3 stories tall. I mean, there's no way for I don't know if there's a way to enforce, I guess, a height of the structure.
Not from the county. we would.
Right. But what we can control is what the original setback is.
Mhm.
That was set for a reason, I believe, in that subdivision.
And I understand that, we go through the process of making protective covenants that say what the setback lines are and what they are. And when they've been established for 35 years, it's kind of hard to tell somebody that they can move within 5 foot of the road. when everybody else is 35 foot away. And just like this lady, her house is back right on the line where it should be. And now this house is gonna be sitting way out here in front of her, and it will be the same way with our house on the other side, sitting out there. And I think all this is contingent upon them buying the property. And I'm not sure about that, but I think it's, right now, it's just under contract, contingent upon them being able to get this variance. So I don't know what the resolution would be, but as long as they kind of build a right size house, I don't see it be a problem. And it's a minimum of 900 square feet, so it's for sure they get a house on the lot. I think they're trying to build a pretty good sized house, from what it looks like.
Let's let them talk to Keith.
I'm sorry.
Let's let them get together and talk with Keith like we've done in the past.
Okay.
See if they can negotiate something.
I would think, from my opinion of this, I would say a cooling off period, and given you just became aware of it. And you've been aware of it, ma'am, since you saw the?
Yes, and they shared their engineering plans of the property with us. They don't have any blueprints of the house yet.
Gotcha.
It's just a big ask for what they're asking for. It's a lot of variance that they're asking for.
What I'd like to do, and it depends on what the other two commissioners want to do, but I'd like to table this for at least 2 weeks. If we need more time, we can do that. It gives everybody a chance to kind of sit down and see if something is workable or not. I would all be in favor of doing that instead of just saying, you know, an absolute no. There may be something here that could be worked out. But I certainly have found that having our building inspector to come out, he's really good at communicating and make sure that there's fairness on all parties. And when he's done that, we've never had one issue after that's done. But how do you feel, Commissioner Johnson? Would you feel a cooling off in a little more time, or do you feel, just how do you feel?
I mean, I just feel like, in this case, I know in the past, if there's been some previous variances, that it's one thing. I mean, it's just, if there have been previous variances granted, and they always get started somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just don't think after this many years that in this development, it should be started now, allowing people to be closer than the neighbors. Now, as far as height or anything like that, that's something that's not the county's issue, whether it be 3 stories or 10 stories. That's out of the county's reach there. I feel like the case has been presented that every other house for 30 some odd years has been built within the guidelines. It's just kind of hard for me right now to really even listen to anything other than, I think there definitely needs to be a period of finding out what type of house they're trying to put on this lot.
Yes.
And if the case be that they're trying to put too large of a house on the lot, and this is all stemming because of that, then I don't think it's would be the right thing for the county to grant them the permission to do so.
Can we table it until we find out? We're not saying yes, we're not saying no, but table it and for us all to spend a little more time on this and make sure we're being fair to all parties. Another 2 weeks, that certainly shouldn't make any difference. How do you feel about that?
I'm fine with that.
Table it for 2 weeks and then.
I would think though that if it was this important of a deal to them, they'd be here to represent themselves. But
Yeah.
I guess we'll just wait another 2 weeks on them, I guess.
Okay. All right, I make a motion that we table this for 2 weeks and really examine it in our next commission meeting, and that time have our building inspector go out and talk. He knows you heard, and ma'am, you might leave a phone number if you would with us or with the deputy back here, and we'll proceed with that. But anyway, I'll make the motion that we table this for 2 weeks. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor? Table it for 2 weeks. Okay. Moving right along. Our next variance request is from the Tankers Lease. And this is to place a garage 27 feet from the edge of Dry Branch Road and 27 feet from the edge of Dry Branch Road and 15 feet from the edge of Mountainside Drive. And this is off of Dry Branch Road, which is a county road. Anyone here opposing this variance request? Anyone here that's in support of it? Okay. Mr. Patterson, what's your thoughts on this, sir?
I went out and looked at it yesterday, and it's a little different. I first went to, I think, some construction workers working next door, and went down to Mr. Tanker's house. It's kind of catty-cornered up there if you look at the diagram, but I think it'd probably work. It's across the road, like that's why they're saying 27 feet from Dry Branch and 15 feet from the edge of Mountainside, but I don't see any issues with it.
Commissioner Johnson? What are your thoughts, sir?
But just the way the lot lays, just looks like the spot where they're gonna have to put the house is where the lot's situated at. I don't have any issues with it.
This is basically boat storage.
It is. It'd be a single car garage. It's one
Garage,
story,
okay.
single car garage, and
I looked
we own everything around it except Mr. Passmore, who I've already talked to. We'd be staying more than 15 feet away from his property line, and my mom and dad own the.
You're Shane?
I'm Shane. Yeah.
Okay.
My dad, William, and Angela own the 2 lots on the other side of Mountainside. So everything on the other side of Mountainside we own, so there's nobody else it would ever affect except me and my family.
It's basically just garage by itself, right?
It is. The guy, that was my guys that
Yeah,
said you came
that
by,
was
and
your
that's
guys.
the place my parents bought that we're remodeling next door there
I
on
got
the
you.
lake side.
Well, if it's on a county road, my main concern, first thing I always look at is it gonna create any problems one way or the other? And I looked at it last week, and the way that's positioned, I saw no issues at all with a problem there, particularly on Dry Branch Road. So I don't have any problems with it either. Commissioners, I'll ask for a motion on this.
Make a motion?
Make a motion to approve the variance.
Yes.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor? Variance is approved. Our Public Works Director is back there. If he opposed it, I would expect him to jump up, but he didn't even flinch, so he's okay. Variance number 6 is from the Mayor Hoffs, and this is to place an addition on their garage, 36 feet from the center line of Gibbs Trail and 24 feet from the edge of Gibbs Trail. This is not a county road. Commissioner Patterson, what say you, sir?
Mr. Mayor, you're here, right?
Yes, sir.
It's hard for me to tell. I went over there the other day. It's nice. He's doing an add-on and just making his garage bigger, correct?
Correct.
And he's down there on the end. It's a real nice lay of land, and I don't see any objections or issues with it.
Is there anyone here that objects to that? I forgot to ask. Any of your neighbors? No? Okay. Shane, that wasn't you raising your hand. Okay. Herb, I'm not listening to you anymore.
I'm done.
Mr. Johnson, you have any thoughts on this?
It's
sir?
always easier without objections.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Meyerhoff, I couldn't pronounce your spouse's name. Would you enlighten us a little bit? I
Her
didn't want to
first
butcher
name
it.
is Yuwa.
Yuwa.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, I've looked at it. I have no issues with it either, Mr. Meyerhoff. So I'll make the motion that we approve this variance. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor? Variance is approved. Our last variance request is from James and Leslie Callender. Are you folks here? Okay. Is there anyone here that objects to this variance? Okay. Mr. Callender, Mr. and Mrs. Callender, if you don't mind coming up, we might have a question or two on this one.
I met these folks the other day, and they're kind of a unique situation. We're trying to help out their parents.
So you're trying to build a home next close for your elderly parents to do that? And you own both lots? Yes, sir. Here would be my issue with that. If you own both lots and it stayed that way forever, you know, but it will be somebody else's someday. You know, we hope way in the future, but my concern here is that when we allow anything closer to 10 foot, if someone else comes in and gets the property, and this has actually happened a few times where, you know, it was fine, even the neighbor agreeing, and then a year or so on down, properties change, and then we've got someone that the property is that close, they may come in and do another survey. It could even find, you know, that they have a disagreement with the previous survey. So my issue with this, and I'll let the other commissioners comment, is just simply the 1 foot there. And it's standard 15 feet is what we have, but moving it 1 foot, if you folks are going to be there forever, you know, but just the idea that if we do that, I've not approved any variance in 3.5 years, that kind of proximity. And I understand, and I feel for your situation. You know, we've done that myself with having elderly folks that actually come into the house and deal with that. So, Commissioner Patterson, what's your thoughts on this, sir?
Well, we talked about it yesterday, and I told them the same thing that you did. I think also Mr. Nicholson did. You know, they just wanted to make sure that they could see their parents and that they have to walk to their house, which is already built. And, you know, what you said is very true. It could happen, but, you know, I just don't know if we could get that 1 foot. I really don't. I think that's an issue there that we would have to back off from.
Well, when we purchased the property, I had a surveyor come out to verify the lines of the property, so we were relatively sure that the lines as one were accurate, first of all. But the point is, we're trying to minimize the distance for our elderly parents. And right now, we're dealing with about 93 feet if we get the variance approved from the end of the house that we're proposing to build in our house. If we go any further than that, the lay of the land changes. We're right on the spine of a ridge and it starts to slope up. That concerns me a little bit. But what we're really talking about here is kind of sort of a reasonable accommodation issue for our parents. although the ADA Act doesn't apply to private residences. But that's what we're trying to do here. I intend to build a little walkway with a handrail down the walkway as well. But
To your house.
this is our retirement home. We don't have any plans of leaving. It just got there. And one day might pass to our children. But this having this approved variance will actually help protect the future owners of the property and help alleviate problems that we built without a variance. So we're hoping y'all can consider this in favor. I know it's unusual, but in the light of the fact this is involving elderly access, hoping y'all consider it.
Mr. Johnson, you got some thoughts, sir?
So what are the chances of you being able, I mean, if you're asking for a 1 foot variance, and I'll just go ahead and disclose that in my 8 years here, I've never voted for anything under 10 feet, and I don't intend to start. What would be wrong with moving it another 9 feet to make it, and I don't know how the other two gentlemen feel, but I know it sounds like they're just like myself. I've never voted for a 1 foot variance, ever. What would be, I mean, what is the final straw that says, and I understand you're talking about distance, but we're talking about, if you're wanting a 1 foot variance, I think to do something that we've all done before, which is a 10 foot variance, there would be a difference of 9 feet. What is the?
Yeah. 9 feet to us, it's a couple of strides, it's not much. But when you're 87 years old and you walk like Tim Conway does on the Carol Burnett show, it's quite a difference. So that's our concern. My mother, who's 81, fell and broke her leg just this past year. So she has great difficulty walking. So yeah, it's a big deal when you're that age.
The picture I just passed out, that's me in the white shirt in the back, and we measured 93 feet. I stood at the property line, so I'm standing at the actual property line, and he's taking the picture from our back porch, our existing house, like it's already that far, so it's already a good distance just to the property line. So an additional 15 feet or 10 feet or whatever beyond that is over the ridge, and it's even further. So we just.
Building on the lot that our house sits on, 5A, is not an option. You can't build a second dwelling there because of the protective covenants. So, in addition, the lot that our house is on is encumbered under mortgage, where we own the other lot free and clear, and we hope to pay cash for this cottage. So we're trying to keep the two separate in that regard, get as close as possible. So we realize it's unusual, but there is a extenuating circumstance here.
And Mr. Chairman, I'm a little bit ignorant about stuff like this. Can you explain again the issue about if we sell the property, like why that would, I guess I don't really understand, because if we ever did have to, for any reason, sell off one piece and not the other, wouldn't that really be like our problem in terms of being able to affect the sale or not? Like a potential buyer might say, oh, this house is too close to the line, tear it down, that would be on us.
It would not. The issue is just, it's not the circumstances you have now, it's the future. And if we make an exception like this, we would be inundated around the county regardless of what the reasons would be. You have a very valid concern. No one's demeaning that or saying that you don't. It's just that we have to look at it from the county perspective, that if we allow a 1 foot variance, we've never allowed anything like that. And I agree with Mr. Johnson. I could not agree with anything less than 10 feet, simply because of what happens in the future. And this is something that we have to deal with on many other things that we make decisions on, is that something happens in the past, and then there's issues that we deal with now that I've got one that goes back nearly 60 years that I'm dealing with, that someone made a decision that is trying to encumber the county, and so we have to be consistent in what we're doing to protect the future. And I would have to tell you, I could not approve anything less than 10 feet. So what I would ask you to do is go back and re-examine this and see if you have options to move back for that. You know, I would, but at this point, we'll have to vote on this to see how we feel, but.
Well, we don't really have any options. We'll have to take whatever you authorize, because we can't cross the property line. So.
You understand what he's saying now about the future though? I mean, when y'all are gone, your kids, maybe your grandkids try to sell that. You know, and maybe they just want to sell something, just, you know, one, not both.
I would understand, but still, that would be between them and any potential buyer to work out, not the county's issue, right? It'd be between.
But the neighbor, whoever owns the adjacent piece at that time, say you sell both of these pieces of property, okay, and this piece gets sold first, okay, say the piece that's gonna be, this house is gonna be 1 foot off the property line, then that person who owns this house, why is there a house 1 foot off of my property line? I mean, it's so odd, I don't think it's ever happened in Fannin County, and that's another trend I don't think we need to start. But.
Well, we appreciate you folks coming. We're gonna vote on this, and then you could go from there if you wanna come back and reapply, or, you know, look at it different. But just to give you where we're at, and we'll vote on this, but I'm with Mr. Johnson on the 10-foot rule. That's pretty much where we stand. We've given variances to that amount, and I'm really not inclined to do more than that.
Couldn't do 8?
No, sir, it'd have to be 10 feet.
That's always gonna give you variance.
Yeah. We thank you for coming. We'll vote on this right now, and then if you want to reconsider and go back and apply for another variance that's within that range, I think we'd be more amiable. And I'm sorry, I hope you can understand. We understand your position. Please understand ours as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Commissioners, I'm going to make a motion that we do not accept this current variance request to build within 1 foot. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor? Okay. All right, item 8, the financial report, which I will do tonight. Ms. Gasaway is inundated with audit right now. And I believe you folks in the newspaper, you got a copy of this in your packet. You did? Okay. Is there anyone that would like a copy? We're not going to do the PowerPoint, but we do have this. If how many copies do you have, Ms. Walker?
I've got about 6 copies.
Okay, if anyone wants a copy of this, please raise your hand, and Ms. Walker will pass it out to you. Anyone else? There's 3. Mark, you might have to read to Chief Searcy. I don't know if he knows how to read. It's not in colored pictures, John.
All comedians out of work, you're doing good.
Anyone else that needs a copy of this? Okay, this is the year-to-date 2020 budget through May. And the number of percentage that you want to hit is 42%. Anything over is over, and anything under that percentage obviously is in pretty good shape. We have the administration, which encumbers a number of offices, and that's running pretty well. The risk management, which is the combination of the health insurance and the liability insurance for the county. This has the reinsurance numbers that we received. So we're running right now about 8% under on the insurance part, which is something I haven't seen before. debt number, which is really the debt on the courthouse. We have to make those payments twice a year, and we're 50% there, which is just a matter of the timing. 3 more payments on the courthouse, and this place will be paid off. All the other items on there, a total of those functions, 34% year-to-date, compared to being 42 as the target. Any questions on that, Commissioners? I probably couldn't answer them if you asked them, but we'll look at the points of the interest and go through this. The Recreation Department, at 42% into the budget year, they are actually under about $55,000. The building maintenance is slightly under, just a few $100s. The general fund part of the Public Works budget is under $129,000, and the new SPLOST for the Public Works is under by a considerable amount, almost $1 million. And that's more of a function of us really scaling back, which we'll get into later, the paving. The fire department is showing being in the red about $32,000, but this is the lease payments that we have on Larry's shiny red fire trucks. And this is strictly a timing issue. As the year goes on, that number should go back into the black. Emergency services are all under the budget, slightly right at it. Tax assessors, under budget about $28,000. The sheriff is over a small amount, $21,000. That's due to capital outlay purchases. And the jail detention center is over about $8,000. And the biggest item there was just simply inmate medical that we had. And year-to-date through May, and this is accumulating the general fund expenditures and all other fund expenditures in the county, we are under budget about 8%. And that's good that we are, because when you look at the revenue that we anticipated for this year through May, it's off 2%. So that's not as bad as what we thought it would be at this point, although we're still not through the year, we're not through the summer, and obviously that number to me is a little more positive than what we've seen the previous month. So revenue's down 2% year to date. However, our expenditures are down 8%, and I think all the departments are looking real hard at their budgets and aware of what we're under these days. And I know the Public Works Department has been doing a lot of things to try to keep that capital expenditure and SPLOST expenditure down, and that's a big part of it. If you look at the local option sales tax and the SPLOST collections, year to date, both of them are actually slightly ahead of where we were last year. SPLOST collections last year, $1,737,000. This year, $1,787,000. About $50,000 more year to date. And that was the local options sales tax, I'm sorry. The SPLOST collections last year at this time was $2,293,000. This year is $2,343,000, and that's about 2% ahead. Again, about 50,000 more. So we were really doing very well up until about midpoint of March when the COVID hit, and we had to restrict a lot of the tourism in the county, which affected so many of our tourism and service-related businesses. So from mid-March through the end of April, that period was very bad on revenue, but May, and those numbers are starting to come back, although we don't have the final numbers for that yet. But those numbers so far, gentlemen, we're doing pretty well in dealing with this. We've not had the severe revenue and cost increase that the state is experiencing, and some of our other counties. So Any comments on that, Commissioner Patterson?
No, not this time. Like I say, it could be worse. The revenue's just off 2%.
Mr. Johnson, any comments on that?
It's
sir?
a very good sign that that's, at this point, with our loss in SPOS collections, it's a very good sign that it's only off by that amount of percentage. So it's just hope that the monies continue to come in and, we stay on the line we're on now, and hopefully maybe even get a little better.
Yeah, I agree with you, gentlemen. I feel, I certainly keep my fingers crossed, and we don't know what's gonna happen with this COVID situation. The county, as most counties have opened up per the governor's orders, and we've seen those COVID test numbers go up, which is also directly due to more testing that's being done in the county. So we're just hoping we can keep on through this and continue to keep the county on a solid footing financially, and certainly all of our department heads and other officials by watching their budgets and keeping those costs down as best they can. That's going to be a big help. So at this point, if you told me 2 months ago we would be sitting here with our financials looking this good, I would have been very amazed. But thank the good Lord, we're in pretty good shape right now. Okay, moving on to item 9, Mr. Thomas, give us an ISO update, please, sir. We haven't talked to you in a while about that. Let us know how you're doing and how things are coming out.
Well, and that's what I was trying to do, was actually find out, or try to remember where we left off at the last time.
You were in bad shape.
Like I just said.
Yeah, you were this close to going in the back room, you know, executive session.
Just that close.
That close, yeah.
That close. Well, since this COVID-19 has, I guess, jumped up and took everybody by surprise, it's shut down a lot of stuff. The thing that it's affecting us right now is the training, the on-hands training. But we've got another plan there as far as trying to keep up with the up-to-date training as far as online stuff, and we're being able to do that individually with the new program that we've got. We just got finished today with this year's round of trucks as far as having them all pump tested. We actually finished sometime around 1:30 this afternoon. We started at about 1:30 yesterday afternoon. We got a late start yesterday, but it was due to the fact that they had a breakdown just before they got into Atlanta, and it threw them just a little bit behind. We probably got done yesterday with the truck testing and all pump testing if they hadn't had that little bit of a setback. But anyway, we've got that out of the way. The hydrants are still being checked by our crew, our new crews that we've got hired on, which now too, they're answering calls, you know, while they're out there doing that. They may be working on a hydrant and then get a call and then boom, they're going somewhere else, you know. But we're trying to keep up with that, making sure everything's good there.
Larry, speaking, if I could stop you right there about your hydrants, how is that coming out? You know, we had problems with our hydrants and all the other places. Are we moving forward on that, as far as the ones that needed to be fixed?
We are. In fact, I have made a couple of contacts, just telephone contacts, you know, with the cities. And the ones that we're getting now, I know there's not been as many reported this year being out of service at this point, but now we're not completely through all of them like, you know, we was last year when we hit it all at once and said, yeah, we had X.
But now y'all don't fix them, right? The townships.
That's correct. That's correct.
So, the Blue Ridge, Morgan, and McKaysville.
That's correct.
But you said there's more of them that's been fixed, you know, that they're not being reported as being,
That's right.
not in.
We had two
service.
just the other day. One wasn't putting any water off. One was putting a little bit of water off of it, not a whole lot, not nothing to actually measure. And come to find out, a contractor had one of the main valves turned off, and all they had to do is go out there and turn the valve back on. That's the main valve that's in the ground that controls that whole line.
Right.
So,
Good.
you know, it's little things that we're finding like that along too. And then with the business, I've got a visitor here. The businesses that we're doing pre-plans on, you know, we got to come down and do your building.
Right.
We're getting those thrown in every chance we get, you know, as far as either getting invited out or actually going and talking to some people. In fact, I've already kind of set the pace, and when I'm out and about in the area, we try to go ahead, or I try to go ahead and mention it to them. And hey, if you guys are ever in the area, they may run by and do a business, you know, like a pre-plan of the building.
Right.
So, but everything's clicking right along. Did get to talk with the ISO the first part of the month, and I was set for July. I know we talked about July. July's gonna be the day and be the month. Talked with the lady that I had most of the conversations with, you know, a year and a half ago, and she said that we would have to go by the effective date. The July date on the letter didn't actually say that 1 year. She wanted us to go from the effective date. And then when I looked at the effective date, I thought, oh, that's several more months. But she said that we had to be in place with that effective date from November 2019 till November 2020 until we can get them to actually come back in and do that 1 year process check. So that's kind of where we stand right now. But
Do you feel like we're prepared for that?
I feel comfortable. The lady, you know, I hadn't had her back up, the lady that was coming in and looking at some of the stuff from Cherokee County, she feels really confident about it too, so. But we have to keep it up. This is a yearly process thing. I mean, this is stuff that's got to happen every year.
Right.
You know, to be able to maintain it, and then hold it for the next 5-year inspection. All right, yeah, we've got this year, this year, this year, this year, but yeah, we've got all the stuff and everything's in place, so.
Mr. Johnson?
So, and with the hydrants that are, who's keeping up with where they're out of service, when they're put back in service, who keeps up with all that?
Well, with the cities are keeping up with when they put them back in service as they fix them, I'm sure, but I have asked for an update on any hydrants that have been fixed. If not, then our next check through will check them. But then again, if we get, let's say if we answer a fire out somewhere and that hydrant's still got the yellow tape with the bag across it, we know it ain't been fixed.
I know that's where I'm going. I don't think that's the process we need to be doing to making sure that these things are getting fixed, you know what I mean? If we don't have some sort of record, fire department checked hydrant A on whatever road, this date, this time, and then this time next year, when they come back to give us our new ISO rating, hydrant A on that road is still out of service, like someone's gonna have to be held accountable this time, because undoubtedly, I don't know how we rocked on for all those years, kind of gravitating, and then all of a sudden we get, you know, whammo last year. And so I want to go ahead and make it clear that for my remaining 6 months here, I want to hear how we're progressing, not what we're doing, but how are we progressing to get this number back, because it's a concern of everybody that pays insurance in this county. And I think that was downplayed a little bit by everyone when this first went on, but now that everyone's insurance numbers have changed, it's a different issue now. So I know it's one of the questions I still get is about our ISO rating. What are we doing? And how are we trying to improve it? But if we're just going around testing hydrants, and well, we tried that hydrant that day we were trying to put that fire out and it didn't work, that's not good. I think we need to have, you know, a baseline of the ones we've checked, and that's why my next question was, you know, what are the cities participating? Are they fixing them?
I'm not getting email. I do email when our guys run up on them. they do too, take a picture of it, let me know where it's at, what address it is, and then I email that on to the city to let them know that this hydrant is out of service and needs some attention.
Do we have any idea, did we ever get a number of how many hydrants are in the county?
Yeah, in fact, we found some that hadn't been addressed, and I want to say, I mean, we're up to now, Patrick, on that list, 1,000?
Right at it.
Right at 1,000.
So throughout the county, there's about 1,000 plugs.
And we're finding, yeah, we're actually finding some that we actually didn't even know that was at,
That you
what
had.
address. Exactly.
But Larry, that confused me a little bit with the process. If you've got a fire somewhere and you say, okay, this is the nearest fire hydrant, you go over there and it's got a bag and yellow tape around it. I mean, that house is gonna be in flames before you find another fire hydrant. Do you know where the closest fire hydrant that's usable is in conjunction with the house?
To that, in fact, and that's what the responding truck, if they're going in, they'll ask for the nearest hydrant. That's what they ask for.
That is functional.
That's, well, yeah, that is functional. Every one
But
of
so
them
you
should be
know the
functional.
ones that are functional, but you don't know how many is unfunctional, correct?
No, we do know. In
Do you
fact,
know?
we've got a list of those too. We do have.
So
a
you
list
got a number
The ones that
that's
are-
not functional?
that are damaged and out of service.
What is that number?
That number I couldn't take right off, because I hadn't got anything back from the cities to let me know how many has.
So you really don't know if we're improving that much or what?
Right. But yeah, and I don't know how to put that, I don't think the number of hydrants being out of service is gonna hurt us. And we're checking.
In a
them,
fire?
And we're letting them know, yes, it's a disaster if we've got a hydrant there and it's out of service and we've got a fire next to it.
Exactly.
It's bad.
Yeah, even more so, yeah.
So if we have a record that we've reported fire hydrant A on a certain road damaged, if we have a record of that, or, I mean, that's what
That's what they'll be looking for. Do we report it to the cities, and we do, through emails.
all right. Because see, I think the fire department and the county needs to have that information to, and not necessarily as leverage, but I mean, my gosh, we need to know if they're helping fix them or not. But if we don't know that they're fixing them or not, because, you know, whether it be the water authority or the city of McKaysville or the city of Blue Ridge or whatever, you know, if it's their lines, it's their responsibility. I think rather than just talking about, well, we're still checking fire hydrants, you know, that's where we were, that's what got us to where we're at. Well, yeah, we were testing them. I mean, we're still talking about you're still finding them. That's ridiculous for 2020 to still be finding fire
That's
hydrants
something
in our county.
that's never been done in this county.
That's sad that it's 2020 and our fire department's never
Just
done
now
it.
getting it.
They've never went out and found all their fire plugs so they can do what they do, and that's fight fire.
Yeah. and-
That needs to happen, and it needs to stop being a talking point, it needs to start being a reality, in my opinion. I wouldn't have even said that, we're still finding fire plugs. If it were me, I would have never said that. But there's I don't know. All I know is my main concern is this ISO needs to go the other direction. And I think it's very clear that it needs to go that way. And I think the only way to start doing it is stop talking about it and us actually do it. And we keep good records, not just for the ISO people, but you know, if there's a fire plug over there that's been out of service for 2 years, I mean, I think we would all like to know if it's been out of service for 2 years and put some pressure on someone. You need to fix that fire plug.
Yeah, that's what we're concerned about, Larry. It looks like we don't, I don't know if the city or you or what, but they don't need to be putting on back burner. This needs to be a priority.
It should be, yes.
Yeah. So, but it looks like somewhere along the line it's been, you know, we'll do it when we'll get to it. You know, we'll do it maybe next month or next week.
Right.
Put it in the back burner. And that shouldn't be. It should be a priority.
So if the county is responsible for firefighting, the volunteer firefighters, paid firefighters, your department, whether it's in the city or whether it's in the county, we're responsible for putting out the fires. So what needs to be done to get the other parties motivated or to cooperate at a better elevated rate than what we've done before? I mean, everybody's been involved this year, the last few months for all this. It's either annexation or it's the COVID thing. And, you know, this could cost a lot too if we're not handling it. And I'm not trying to shift the blame at you. I'm just trying to ask what needs to be done for us to put this on the front burner with all the other water systems, all four of them, and make sure that if there's, it's been, that we know the status of every fire hydrant in the county, and the parties that are responsible for fixing them is motivated to fix them. What would you think that needs to be done? I mean, you need to go to the city council meetings at each one and bring this issue up, or how? What does it take? I'm not big into dramatics and trying to do that. Surely we've got better ways to bring that up other than just trying to embarrass, you know, the other governments. But it sounds like we need to come up with some kind of plan, get everybody on the same urgency pattern as what we are.
Well, I do know it would be good too if we had water all over the county as well, but we, you know, we're not there yet either.
So we don't even know where the fire plugs we got, or you're saying you're still finding fire plugs.
No.
So let's worry about those that we've got in the ground and sticking up out of the ground right now. We all know and probably agree that it'd be a good idea to have water everywhere. But we're still talking about right now that you're still finding fire plugs. That's amazing to me. So let's not worry about water all over the county. Let's worry about water and the plugs we've got right now. And I think you just said it best when we need to know what to do if you still are having problems getting these things fixed, because we need to be able to use the ones that we got now, not worry about any new ones right now, but we need to know where they're at, for one. That would be the first key ingredient. The second key ingredient, in my opinion, would be knowing if they work or not. And thirdly, has it been fixed if you reported it broken? Because I don't think we're expecting you to fix the fire hydrants, but I mean, I would hope that the local municipalities around here, if they know they have a broken fire plug, would fix it.
Right.
But if not, the only choice I think, see, we're kind of stuck in a rock and a hard place because the ISO affects the county. All right, and in turn, the ISO was affected by some of the fire hydrants, correct?
That's right.
So, you know, it's kind of the county's getting the blame for problems that weren't ours anyway, but we've got to address them. And I think it sounds to me like we're all interested in how are we going to start doing that. I think first off, we're going to need to know how many they are or are not fixing that you're reporting need to be fixed. And I'd love to see those numbers when y'all get them available. How many you've reported, you know.
Is there someone in each of these other, the water authority and the other cities, that has numbers or any information that shows you where these are?
Yes, they should have maps. I have looked at maps for the water systems.
What do we need to do, and how soon can we do it to get what we're talking about here accomplished?
Actually, as far as going back and talking to them, sitting down and talking to them, I can start that process again tomorrow. And then, you know, email, maybe tell them I'm coming or whatever, but as far as that goes, if you want me to sit down, I didn't know if y'all wanted to talk to them or.
Well, you're the fire chief, and, you know, you should carry a lot of weight with all these other agencies, and if you tell them you need to know where these fire hydrants are and the condition of them, I would think that would be something that they would want to work with you on.
Chief, who are you talking about talking to? The mayor?
The mayors.
Mayors? Okay.
Well, it's a problem.
It is.
So let's, you know, we're working on ISO, but this, on the fire hydrant thing, why don't you figure out a plan between now and the next meeting or sooner, to start working on that, so we'd have something that's more of a definitive answer on it. Because you know, it's everybody's problem, but we're the ones seems to be ultimately responsible for the biggest part of it.
Right. So you can come back and talk to us in 2 weeks and see what you come up with.
Anything else on this subject? Anything else you need to tell us about on this, sir?
No, I couldn't, no.
Okay. Anything else, Commissioner Johnson?
So you feel comfortable that when our re-evaluation does come, that it will be suitable to,
Pull that 5 back.
yeah. And that due to all of the testing, flow testing on your trucks and everything, hose certifications, I guess, whatever you call those. So throughout all the labors that you're doing, you feel like that's gonna help pull the number back?
I do.
Anything you feel like else needs to be done to ensure that, or other than us finding all our fire plugs?
No, I mean.
I wonder what that affects in the big scheme of things with ISO, like us all knowing where our fire plugs are.
Oh, yeah, that would help. But as far as knowing, yeah, we've got the majority of them. But my question was, why won't they ever add this? But I don't wanna throw it on to another department.
Well, you're gonna have to, that's why you're the fire chief. You're gonna have to throw it on someone and get the plugs plugged onto a map.
Right.
You gotta make that happen. That's why you get paid the big bucks for fire
Are we
chief.
gonna work something out with the city municipalities if we are the ones that damage the fire plugs?
If we damage them?
Yes.
And what way, I mean, how would
With
we
the
get
side
that?
on bush on, I've witnessed several of them that's been hit.
It's been taken care of.
They have?
Yes.
Okay.
Where's your answer on that?
I'm still worried that it's out, so.
I don't have anything else, Chief. Anything else,
I had nothing.
Commissioners?
No,
Let's try to make some progress in that area here in the next couple of weeks if we can, or sooner. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Larry.
All right. Mr. Ratcliffe.
Good afternoon, Commissioner.
Good afternoon, sir.
I've got a little business. I know we put some of our paving off due to COVID. I guess we kind of ratcheted back a little bit on that. Actually, we haven't done very much paving at all. We've done some patching and that kind of stuff, kind of trying to get caught up on some of that. We have some money that GDOC has gave us on a grant called LMIG, and we've got to use that or we're going to lose it or have to pay it back. So I'd like to come from you guys and ask if we can use that. We got to do a 30% match. The money that's in LMIG is $732,476.14. To do the 30% match would be $219,742.84. That would be coming out of my budget part of that. That would give us $952,218.98. So right out of $1 million that we would have to pay. This would be the LMIG asphalt. I've got 3 roads that I'm looking at to pave. You guys got that package there. But 3 roads that I have would be Galloway, Coast Switch, and Sugar Creek.
You got a mile, is that about a mile distance on Sugar
Yeah,
Creek?
yes,
Or
yeah, I'm 1 mile. 1 mile.
1 mile.
Yep,
Curtis Switch, you've got 2.2,
correct.
and then Galloway, you've got 3.5.
3.5 division. And, I'd like to be able to, the reason I've done the 3 roads, I want to be sure we get that money used, and which I figure with a couple of them may get it anyway. We may, with the option to take one of the roads off or shorten ones, so that we get all the money used. If I don't want the money going back, basically have the grant.
So in other words, what you're proposing here is that you put bids out for all 3 roads,
Correct.
have the cost individual roads,
Correct.
and then when we make a decision on accepting bids, we can determine how we want to prioritize
Exactly.
which of these roads and try to maximize using the grant money and use what we're having out of your SPOS fund, which you have plenty of SPOS money to accommodate our part of it. And then we could make a decision at that time on whether we could do all 3 roads or 2 roads. This is certainly not as much as what we've done the last 3 years. We've been hitting about 10 to 11 miles.
Correct.
So I don't know what kind of cost overall on pre-mixed asphalt running right now, Commissioner.
Not bad. It's cheaper than it was this time last year, so.
So we might possibly get a little more than,
Yeah.
you know, per foot or per mile of what we've been getting.
Correct. So I'm gonna bring that before you guys so that we can put that out to bids.
Okay. So just to be clear, we don't need to vote on this. We would vote on a bid when it comes in, but you're basically just asking permission to move forward and solicit bids.
What were the Sugar Creek was 1 mile,
So,
the lengths of the roads? Well, I'm sorry, I was thinking the fire plug just a second ago. Was it 1 mile of Sugar Creek,
yes,
Curtis Switch Road?
let's see, 1 mile is Sugar Creek, 2.2 is Curtis Switch,
Okay.
3.5 is Galloway.
Okay, so 3.5.
The Curtis Switch and Sugar Creek, I'm gonna add a foot on each shoulder, about the line. Galloway, there's nothing there to, like, there's no way to add anything to that thing, 'cause it's already.
It's about 6.7 miles, and you've been in the past few years, 10 to 11 miles, 10 to 12, whatever it is.
It's been around just a couple years.
So we need to run ads in the county of Oregon.
Yes, and Georgia procurement. That's, everybody good with it?
You gentlemen good with moving forward to solicit
Yes.
bids on these?
Yeah, and just so I don't forget, like I did last year, I think this year we need to add in, they need to provide a third-party inspector.
Yeah, I do. I agree.
Whoever, you know, any qualified bidder, they have to include in their package.
Yes, I can't stay there all the time, so that's, it definitely needs to be.
So,
Yeah,
I'm just, since it's,
yeah.
since it's premature right now, I think it'd be a good idea for us to,
Exactly.
put that out with the bid package, they have to provide it and submit the reports to the county.
We talked about that last year, and I definitely want, definitely put that in there, it's gotta be.
Okay.
Next item is, our chip and seal. We got a list here, I've got a total of, 12.8 miles of proposal. Don't mean we'll get it, we might, it just depends on the weather, you know how that goes. So we got that, we sort of came back a little bit with it because of getting a late start, because of COVID, and because of capital improvement deals, so we're definitely.
In your estimation, these are the roads that we really need to prioritize
Yeah.
as far as if we can chip seal this year.
Right, yeah.
These, 12.8 miles, that's about a mile of road. And these are the ones that have really been expensive,
Exactly.
a lot of gravel, a lot of man hours, a lot of dust, and
So all these gravel roads now,
Oh, yeah.
right?
quite a bit of, oh yeah. And quite a bit of traffic. Been looking at this for some time. And I'm good with this list. I don't have anything, some of these are a little short, but they are extensions on something we've already done, like this trap. It's adding on to what we did.
Some of these are like little cut throughs, like Coles Crossing, some
Yeah.
of those that you get from 60 over to Gate Tower to Harsh Valley a little bit. That's a little shortcut for all of those who lives up there.
Yeah, that, I know you've got Whispering Pines down here, and that's a good one because it connects Highway 515 and 076 between the two.
I think that'll complete all of them on that corridor up there on that east side
Right.
before we cut across there, before we get back over to 06 before, like emergency management stuff.
You've got Jonica Gap up through there. That one is on the far end of the county. That's been a real booger to keep maintained through there. And doubt that you're paved on two sides of that. That's just connecting the unpaved part of Doubt on over to what you've already got, isn't it?
So we finish that, complete that.
We've got that done in little bites. And Cassius Valley there from the end of the pavement on the Gilmer County line, that would take care of our responsibility.
That's sort of cut through there too, everybody goes to Gilman County, use that back way to Gilman County, so that'll be a big thing right there.
Yeah, a lot of folks live out there, go that direction. Okay. I don't have any further questions. You and I have talked about this quite a bit. Anything, Commissioner Patterson, on this?
No objections.
Mr. Johnson?
It's like a good list to start with. Hope you get the weather to do some of it.
Had an unusual amount of rain this year, haven't you? That's been really tough on you to keep, rain and then rain at night and sun during the day and
Grass is good.
growing a foot a day almost out there.
Yeah. Grass is nice.
All right. I don't have anything else for you, Mr. Ratcliffe. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 11, land lease agreement. Back a couple of months ago, we were contacted in the office by Verizon. And they came to us and indicated that they would like to build a 250-foot cell tower on the property out at the Public Works Department in that field out in front of the garage, with plenty of space. And they're looking for, they needed about 100-foot square, is that correct, Zach? Width, and needed basically to have an easement on there. And they gave us basically a proposal on how much they would pay us, and they came back and raised that. But that would increase the ability for cell service out in that area. About a 3-mile radius, is that correct? And would take care of an area where cell service is not really good. And what the county would receive would be payments over a 5-year period of $9,000 a year. And then by extending the contract, they automatically would raise it 10%. And Ms. Doss, you've looked at this contract. There were any legal issues at all that you
No, sir.
saw with it? And this, of course, requires a vote of the full Board of Commissioners to move forward, but we've talked to these people, been out there, they've looked at the location on site. Looks like it's a real good potential, and we can do a good service to our community to improve the cell service out in a pretty good area and get paid for it. So, you got any insight on this, Commissioner Patterson?
It looks real good. I'm looking at this back, second page here with that's highlighted. Signing bonus, you cover that. $500.
You just did.
Okay. I can't see anything wrong with it. If after the 5-year term, it automatically goes unless we want to terminate the agreement.
Right. Either party.
Either party. I think it's a good deal. We got so I think it's a good deal for us.
What do you think, Commissioner Johnson?
I think it's a marvelous idea. With the option to get out in 5 years, if something doesn't work out. It's not I mean, it's long-term, but it's not too long-term, so I don't think, I think being able to provide the service out Astor Road would be a tremendous service to that part of the county.
Okay. All right. And it's with Verizon, which is what a lot of us use for phone service. Okay. Any further questions on this before I ask for a motion to approve?
I have none.
Okay. All right. I'll ask for a motion that we approve this agreement between Fannin County and Cellco Partnerships, DBA, Verizon Wireless. I'll make the motion that we approve this. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor? Okay. All right, the last item was the last minute item that we added, and this is simply the annual contract between the Fannin County Board of Commissioners and the University of Georgia Cooperative Extension Service that's right next door. And this contract is basically to pay $7,400 a year in employee compensation and benefits, of which the university, of course, pays the lion's share. But this is the Cooperative Extension Service is Fannin County and Gilmer County, and it's just a continuation of what we've been doing in the past. Any questions, sir?
I have none.
Commissioner Johnson? Okay. I'll ask for a motion that we approve this contract between Fannin County Board of Commissioners and the Cooperative Extension Service. I'll ask for a motion.
Make a motion.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor? Okay. Okay, Commissioners, do we need executive session?
No.
Okay. If not, I'm going to ask a motion for adjournment.
Make a motion.
All right, second?
Second.
All in favor? We're adjourned. Thank you, folks, for coming.